This video is all about resiliency, both in how to make sturdy wood carvings and sculptures and how to be resilient as an artist. So it's been a while since I've made a longer video format on my YouTube channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing to my channel, Wilson Wildlife Sculpture. I want to give some updates on just my progress as an artist. And last year was a big year, and this year 2025 continues to be very promising. Although it's had its ups and downs, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Some things you learn over the course of years, which I've been carving since I was 10 years old, over 40 years. I've been sculpting full time over 30 years. So this is my centerpiece this year, and I want to give you a little tip about how to make it more sturdy and how to make your pieces come apart. Because I have to travel with my work, ship my work, and it's very important to make some pieces to come apart. So I'm going to give some tips there, and just tips in general about how to be resilient as an artist. Because art is very subjective, and we all receive praise, we receive criticism, and we get an ego. We get, sometimes we really like our work. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes you really like a piece and you look back at it and say, oh, what was I thinking? And that happens a lot if you're more of a perfectionist like I am and you want to improve. And so I try to keep my ego in check. It's one of my rules about being a resilient artist. So try not to gloat or be too... I guess, when you win awards and everything, it's nice, or you win prize money or sell a piece, it's great. But as a life as an artist and doing this full time over the years, I realized that it can be feast or it can be famine. But I'm nothing but a starving artist. I'm very successful, and I have a master's degree in fine arts. I taught as a professor of fine art at 2 different universities for 7 years. But I went sabbatical in 2008 because this is what I enjoy doing most. Although I do miss teaching good students. But now that we have YouTube, I can give tips on social media, and I can promote this art form as different types of wood carving and sculpting that I show on my channel. Give lots of tips and tool reviews, and just tips on being an artist and how to make a living, or just having it as a hobby and enjoying it, and how you can improve. So most people want to improve, and it depends on what you want to learn. And I do offer private lessons on my website, wilsonwildlifesculpture.com, as well as I have instructional videos on how I do the very fine detail. This is a little more impressionistic. I did most of this detail with paint. There is texture in the feet in some areas. But I'm going to give you a tip on how to make these plumes. And I forgot how I made these because I used to use wood for everything. And that's the general rule for wood carving shows. You have to use wood. You can use other materials for habitat and support, but you have to use wood. I don't like these really stark rules, because as an artist, I continue to develop, and I want to think outside the box. So I think rules kind of stifle creativity. So I'm creating fine art, not just craft, not just science. I'm recreating the birds accurately, but I'm putting my own artistic flair to them. And by the way, my ancestor William Bartram was the first to describe the great blue heron in the United States here, before it was the United States, in the 18th century. William Bartram traveled to Southeast, and I wrote my thesis in graduate school about him, and he's my great uncle. So I have a real spiritual connection to the natural world, and I thought it was interesting that Bartram was the first to describe the heron, great blue heron, Venus flytrap, the Franklin tree, named after the Bartram's friend Benjamin Franklin, which is now extinct in the wild, but is cultivated. Everything's a direct descendant from Bartram's discovery. So, okay, start off with a tip here, then I'll talk more about resiliency as an artist, because I've got a lot to share about my shows and how I did with my solo sculpture retrospective show, and how I did traveling to my shows this past winter. So, okay, this is made of recycled plastic. I used to use wood on all my plumes and just everything, but I realized over time that those, very fragile things break. I could have used a lot more plumes because during courtship season, herons and shorebirds, they have quite a bit of plumes that show. I'll show some details at the end of this video, and you can see a lot of painting techniques to give the illusion of those plumes. In fact, this whole thing is not textured with a wood burner or a micro grinder. It is just textured with paint and painted with acrylics. I think I have oils in there too. And check out the 2 herons I did last year as a commission. The great blue heron is one of my favorite birds. Okay, so it's interesting. What reminded me of these plumes was I have a new commission this year. I'm making a monumental sculpture. It's all out of recycled materials. It's about pollution and conservation. And it'll be unveiled in just a few weeks here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I dumpster dived about 50 dumpsters looking for materials for this project. And in the course for it, I found, it's amazing what people throw away. So I found a plastic lid to a container, which I use when I go to shows. But this was a new plastic in a dumpster. I try to get newer stuff. But old stuff can work, like aluminum is a great material. It just depends what you want to make. But I'm making leaves. This is what I made out of plastic. Again, I have a video on my website how to make a magnolia flower with leaves carved in wood, every petal made of wood, very realistically with a metal armature. But these I have made out of recycled metal. You can see the printing, recycled plastic, just from the container lid. And I painted these with acrylics. And that's exactly how I did this. Okay, these plumes were cut out just out of an old container. And this is going to be a part of my monumental sculpture commission. I make an endangered sunflower that I'm making out of recycled materials. So there's quite a bit to it, and I'll explain that later, why I got that commission. But we're talking about resiliency and durability materials. This plastic has flex. So I have to make this so that thousands of people can view it, not just view it, but handle my piece, and it won't break. And so it's an outdoor sculpture, and I have to make this piece so that it will withstand the elements as well as people's touch and using the sculpture. So I'll unveil that later. That's a big project I've been working on. And also, when making something like this, you want to make it come apart. So I use actually steel rebar for the legs, and I welded the toes. You don't have to go to that extent, but you want to use something heavy because this is actually one solid piece of basswood. I would normally hollow something out this size now. It just depends, especially if I do a bird in flight. But I welded the metal and I put a plumber's epoxy over that. And I have a video where I answer people's questions and tips and give you some more tips on holding the metal together and what I use. I believe my friend Larry asked that tip. So feel free to ask me any questions on my YouTube channel, and I will do another video on answering those questions. If you look closely, I carved this driftwood into the shape of a heron. Okay, this is about life and death, the cyclical nature of life. And I just feel it's a very more spiritual piece. I like the movement of the piece, and the cattail represents growth. So it's a very meaningful piece. It's my centerpiece. I came close to selling it at one of my shows, but the collector bought a couple other pieces, which was very nice. And about being resilient as an artist, that's, in terms of sales, you have to be just that, because it comes with a little bit of luck, a little bit of hard work, a lot of hard work, and your presentation and where you show your work. Those are very key ingredients that I've learned over the years in how to be successful. And I want to share so I can spread other people to be successful. I try to give back and support the arts as well as conservation. And I actually had a show in Tulsa, Oklahoma with a conservation-minded organization called Nature Works, but they decided to cancel their show this last, it would have been just a couple weeks ago, so they can raise money for funding of another project. And that was a bit of a hit to my living as an artist, because I do well with that show, and I have collectors that follow me for years and buy my work. And there are artists from all over the country, even other countries, getting that show. It's very difficult to get into the top shows unless you're very established. So you have to have really good photographs of your work and win the top awards like I have over the years. So without that show, I had to think on my feet, and so I looked around to see, okay, what other opportunities there are. And one was a public sculpture monument. Actually, I applied for a few last year, and I got 2, and I got rejected on another one. But that's pretty good, ratio. And I'm waiting back to hear if I hear about another public sculpture soon. But I did receive a sculpture, which big commission, the public sculpture I was talking about with pollution and conservation, and that really helped offset the cancellation of the other show. But it kind of keeps me doing some other work, because it's been a lot of work since November. And I had a big show in Charleston, South Carolina, which you can watch on my YouTube channel. It's called SEWI, the Southeastern Wildlife Exposition, the largest wildlife art show in the country, if not the world. And then I was invited to do a solo show at a art center to raise money for the arts. This is in South Georgia. I live in North Georgia, but I do have a lot of collectors around Georgia in the Southeast, and I thought, oh, this would be a great opportunity, because it's been a while since I've had a solo show. Solo means you can be with one person or 2 people, 2-person show, but I filled a room, 2 big rooms, just myself. There were 2 other artists a part of the event in other rooms, but this was my solo retrospective show, and a curator helped set it up. And I thought my work looked really great. I put videos on my YouTube channel, and there was a lot of work on the curator's part, the show's part, and on my part, getting ready for that show, because I had another show, like I said, in Charleston, South Carolina. But being resilient is very humbling, because I sold 0. I sold nothing. I came close last year to selling 0 at a show. Actually, there was one show I didn't sell anything. But that's the nature of the event. And there are certain things you look for, when, doing an event. And you want, the center or the area to have patrons that support the event. And I was not sure about this one. And, but people didn't know me. I didn't know, I have some collectors there, but I guess they couldn't come. And I could not attend because I was working on this big monumental commission. And I still have other commissions and work to get ready for my shows. Like this centerpiece, which I did last year, and it's won awards. But it's going to take a special home for someone to have it. I would love to have someone feature it in their home. I do have prices on my work on my website, and I've been very successful over the years. But it's all about being resilient and taking that criticism and taking those humbling, losses when you do all that work, all that effort, and you sell nothing. Okay, and that's tough, especially if you're at a group show and there are a lot of other artists and they're doing well and you're not. And last spring I did a show and I didn't sell anything. I went to the opening and I saw some other artists do well. It's very subjective. Usually I do well, but only when I show more of my work, and people know me over time. It takes a while to have collectors establish trust and know you over time, and then to know that I guarantee all my work. If something breaks, I fix it, and that I make my work with integrity, and it's a passion of love, and so I'm very, very lucky. But I receive a lot of a lot of critiques and criticism sometimes, and you just, sometimes it hurts, but you just take it. And I mean, I accept critiques regularly from my loved ones, my family, my fiance, and sometimes it can be brutal, especially after you really like something. But that's the only way to improve, if you accept criticism and be resilient to it. That is how I've improved, and I continue to try to improve, keep my ego in check. Last year I sold a very large piece, and it was great. I was on top of the world. And then, like I said, I have a show I sold nothing. And you get rejected from even getting into a show, or turned down from doing tons of work for your proposal for something. That happens all the time in whatever field you are. In architecture, people come up with proposals all the time. It's the same in fine arts, same in sculpture. Even with private collectors, I do proposals, and sometimes I never hear back. I'm like, what happened? I'm not so good at checking back with people, but that's a good thing to do. And it's all about communication, and sometimes it's just timing, and actually it's a lot about timing. Going to shows, meeting people, when someone's right, it's a right opportunity, and someone wants something, then it's great. But a lot of times, people have things going on in their life, and you just have to be resilient. And like I have been, I'm for the long haul. I live well within my means, which helps me to be resilient. So I'm just careful, and I really love what I do for a living. So that's a little bit about these pieces, and about being resilient as an artist. One final thing I want to share, and this is an important one, because I had a good friend pass away who talked about resilience. And this fellow, Bob Jones, is a good friend of mine for over the years. And unfortunately, he had lots of health problems, and so much that he was handicapped to a wheelchair, and was paralyzed actually from the waist down. But somehow he learned to get up and stand up. I mean, I had to help him, and he learned. He couldn't talk very loud, but he was a great storyteller, a great person. More of a viewer of my work, a great photographer. He did commission something, but I don't care if people collect from me. Going to shows and teaching students, it's about establishing friendships and getting to know people, and it's so much more about learning in this world and just having friends than it is just selling. Okay, but what Bob Jones said at shows was, I wouldn't miss this in the world. Here I'm looking at him. How in the world did he get here, being paralyzed from the waist down? At the end there, he did have help, but God bless Bob and his family. One final thing, Bob's motto was never give up. Okay, never quit, never give up. That is true in life. You have to be resilient, and then you'll learn that will pave your way to being successful. Being resilient comes with being positive. Try not to look at things pessimistically, but optimistically. Try to be confident, and just come back, because everyone has setbacks. Everyone receives criticism, and when you do well, sometimes there's forces that people don't want you to do well, right? Or people get jealous. So I try to be humble and try to negate those forces, and not be friends with people who don't have my best interest at heart, which is very important. Always try to have people have your back. Okay, it's very important. And being positive, and just when you have setbacks, it's how you're resilient, how you can pick yourself up, how hard you're willing to work. And I've had some very accomplished sculptors who do very, very well across the country. One in particular told me that I'm the hardest working artist that he knows. And I am usually the first and the last one to leave, or very close to it, at some of these art shows, because I really take my time setting up. I bring pedestals, professional lights, and that does make a difference. And I really strive on presentation, good craftsmanship, the form, that's the composition, the arrangement of the elements of design and principles of organization is very important with my work, as well as concepts, okay? Just not being just decorative, but trying to push the envelope of the art world and making it more meaningful so that my works last the test of time. Their timeless appeal. I want to create classic beauty. I've studied art my whole life. You can never study enough art history. But you know, a lot of things have been done before, but I always try to do something original and one of a kind. Okay, don't copy myself. Although I've done herons before. So let me show you some close-ups of this piece. Thanks a lot for subscribing to my channel. You can also, again, subscribe to my website and any of my social media pages. I regularly post on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm trying more on YouTube. But I don't get any payment for my my social media channels like YouTube. I just do it to establish community, especially in the wood carving, the wildlife sculpture community. Anyone interested in this art form and want to learn and help support me, I greatly appreciate it. And if you want to further learn, again, I have 5 instructional videos. Mainly they feature carving a bobwhite quail on my website, but I show texturing techniques in one video, painting techniques, flower carving and painting, another video, and I'm also available for individual instruction. And soon I'm going to be available for consultation on public sculptures, because I have a lot of experience I want to share with that. So let me show you some close-ups of this, and stay tuned to see my public sculpture. It's called High Five for Conservation, and it'll be unveiled in a few weeks, and I will make videos showing the process as well as the finished result and the interaction of the public. So it should be lots of fun. It's going to be huge, my largest public sculpture. I'm very grateful for everything, and that's a part of being successful and resilient, is having faith and being grateful, and count your blessings, because people have things a lot more difficult. So anytime I'm able to walk, to eat healthy, to do what I do for a living, I am very, very blessed and grateful. So thank you very much, and enjoy the few close-ups, and feel free to comment on any questions you have, and I'll try to answer them. Thanks a lot.